Hi, everybody. It's David Locke. This is going to be a new attempt at something. Maybe this will work, help us do some numbers differently. I'm trying to record a screen and then talk to you about it. And what it is that yesterday on Bowler, Jack, Locke, and Gerard, when we do our weekly roundtable, we got into a question of whether Al Jefferson could become Zach Randolph. So what I've done here is taken a bunch of statistics. This is Zach Randolph's career right here. And then this is Al Jefferson's career right here. And what the key is here is that Jefferson is 26 years old, which is where this green line is on Zach Randolph. What I want to show you here, here's some of what the statistics are. This four part right here are kind of the Lock Geek stats. True shooting percentage. This is called stud and dud on this sheet, but it's really now what we know as cringe and grin. Larry H. Miller's batting average stat, and then my offensive ranking. These blue statistics are maybe the most important for future prognostication. That's how an individual uses a possession. So percentage of possessions that end in their hand that are 2-point field goals. Here are 3 free throws, which we'll talk about here in a second, and then turnovers. And then this last part is just kind of a better way to look at individual statistics, that of broken down to individual opportunities. So this is scoring opportunities. This is points per field goal attempt. And kind of looks at the player. So the key here in the question is Zach Randolph is playing so brilliantly is whether or not Al Jefferson can do the same upcoming. And let's look at some things about their up to the 26 years old. And the first thing we look at is the yellow highlight right here, which shows you that up until being 26 years old, Zach Randolph was a really, really poor offensive player. He shot 45%, 44%. You see the numbers here when he was in Portland. And then look over here. This in the red is breaking it down to the individual possession. And a negative number here shows you that he is below the league average in how he used his possession. I mean, his 24-year-old year in Portland's really a disaster. He's having all sorts of off-the-floor problems as well. But if you see here, he's below the league average. And this year, a little bit above in 06, 07. He goes to New York, he's below average in how he uses a possession. Well, Jefferson's somewhat similar. In Boston, he got above average, but not by a lot. Then he hovered right in above it, then slipped below, and then last year was on league average. And what that means is just quite simply, if the league average points per possession is 1.03 points per possession, that's basically, if you're at 0, what you're getting your team, which isn't great. If you're going to be the primary go-to guy, you need to be a lot better than that. So that's kind of where these guys are. And if you look at 26 years old, in the green horizontal line, Al's a little bit better shooter at that time. He used possessions better. That was a bad year. He got moved to New York that year for Randolph. His lock offensive ranking's a little bit better. This is jack percentage. This shows you how often he uses a shot. And they both didn't go to the free throw line very often. Zach shot a 3 every now and then. Zach turned it over a great deal more. Similar amount of scoring opportunities. And really, in the 26-year-old year, Al's better than Zach was. Now, Zach explodes. And how does he get better? He gets traded from New York to the Clippers in this year. He moves up lock offensive ranking. The league average is about 10. In this case, I have it written as 8.2, but frankly, this last year was 10. It kind of hovers between those two numbers. Here he really takes a nice jump. He'd done this once before, but to get up above the league average, if you're going to be a primary 22 possession guy, 22 scoring opportunity guy, you've got to do that. He then jumps to 14.7 and 16.7. Well, that's a really high level jump for Zach. Now, one thing that's worth noticing, he started using possessions less and less here. That's what that shows you. How did Zach Randolph do this? Well, he started going to the free throw line. This blue number right here shows you that the percentage of possessions that end in a player's hand that go to the free throw line. And he's nearly 12% in 09-10, and then this year was at 11.5. The contrast here is disturbing on whether or not we think Al Jefferson's going to make this jump. If we isolate this part of Al right here, and you look at it, sorry about that, and you look at it, Al is going the wrong direction. He is suddenly shooting less and less free throws per possession, and you've got to go to the free throw line to be a high-level, efficient offensive player. If we look at the explosion that Zach has had after being 26, it all stems back to this. His free throw percentage went up a little bit. There's no question. But it comes here. Points per field goal attempt, he's up to 1.26, 1.27. He had showed some signs of that once before. If you look here, there's one sign that possibly Jefferson can do that, but he's down at a 1.6 level, 1.16 level, which is just not good enough. He's got to be better offensively to do that. Here is your points per scoring opportunity, and again, not high enough, but you get that this is very similar if you look to where Zach Randolph was in his career prior to the last 2 years and then jumped up. And the question is whether or not Al can do the same. But what this shows me is whether Al's going to be able to do this is all stemmed on this number right here. Can Al Jefferson evolve into a player that starts to go to the free throw line? And the trending numbers on Al are heading the other direction. But what changed in Randolph, if you look at this chart, he became more efficient by going to the free throw line a considerable amount more, using more possessions at the free throw line, which in turn I think is related to why his field goal percentage went up ever so slightly. And then he used a few less possessions per game, probably the increase of some better players around him. And we see that happening with Al right here. He used fewer possessions last year than he has before, so hopefully this can happen. But if it's going to happen, this trend right here is very, very disturbing and has to head the other direction. So that's a little bit of a screen breakdown on whether or not Al Jefferson can become Zach Randolph.